Run it back, Nation. What is good? It is your boy DJ Swood. Run it back, Philly. No frauds, no fanboys, no intros. Algo gang, do your thing. Hit the like button on this video. Give me 500 likes, man. Look, I don't have a lot of time today, so this is going to be a quick one. The Sixers last night, in a game where they rested their entire starting lineup, upset the Atlanta Hawks, who played their entire healthy roster. Number one, that's embarrassing for the Atlanta Hawks. But number two, it really, really says how much depth the Philadelphia 76ers actually have. It really shows us how good the roster actually could be if certain players were used at certain times. We saw this in the beginning of the season when the Sixers were playing a month and a half without James Harden, Joel Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey because they all had ankle or foot injuries at the same time. We saw some good wins against good teams by role players. And here's exactly why. As soon as Doc Rivers' philosophy is out the window, as soon as Doc Rivers is not trying to win a game, as soon as there's no pecking order, as soon as Doc Rivers' game plans are so trash that as soon as you take his game plan and throw it in the trash, the team is better. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And it's funny, he keeps out coaching himself. He keeps getting exposed because as soon as he takes a step back and he's not coaching and he's not trying to win, he's just letting players go play. They're better than when he's intentionally coaching. Things like this just continue to be a microcosm of Doc Rivers' entire career. This is what he does. He outthinks himself. His ego takes over the basic common sense of basketball decision making. And that's why he has the most 3-1 blown leads in NBA history, and all on and on and on. And he's known to not develop young players, and it just continues. I just wanted to say that. Now, another thing I wanted to say with Jaden Springer, my guy Pope came into comments yesterday and said you were out on Jaden Springer earlier last season, and I was. And I was out on Isaiah Joe at certain points when he was with the Sixers. I was out on Charles Bassey, who now has a 4-year contract with the San Antonio Spurs, and the Sixers released for nothing with an open roster spot. I was out on a couple of young players who before that I thought had potential, but their lack of playing time, their lack of opportunity under Doc Rivers even convinced me for a short period of time that, hey, maybe these players are garbage. Maybe these players are not good. Just let him go. He doesn't have it. And then you see him play for another organization and you see him live up to their potential. And then you step back and say, wait a minute. This is becoming clear. It's this system. It's not the player. So we continue this Daryl Morey drafting and signing players that can help you win, and Doc Rivers not using them the right way. Let's move on because I want to go over a couple of plays that Jaden Springer had in this game that sealed it. We're going to watch it in slow-mo and break it down. We're just going to go over the box score before we get to that. Jalen McDaniels last night, 24 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, 8 for 17 from the field. George Niang, feeding off of all of the action that other players were creating, hit 5 3-pointers in the game. Even had a couple of plays where he was driving to the rim. I mean, good God, what kind of energy was injected into this team that suddenly George Niang is putting the ball on the floor and driving to the rim? Or are the Atlanta Hawks just that bad? They are bad. But there was a different level of energy with this team last night. The same thing we saw in the beginning of the season when they were playing without starters for a bunch of injuries. Paul Reed, 10 points, 8 rebounds, 4 for 6. Great defense, great instincts, great rim defense. You know what Paul Reed does. Shake Milton had 15. Jaden Springer, 19 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds, 8 for 13, and 3 game-saving plays. Now, I want to say this. This was not a G League game. This was not a preseason game. You can't come in my comments today and say I'm overhyping or I'm overvaluing these players because this was a meaningless game, a preseason, a summer league, a G League, what have you. You can't come in here and say this today. The Atlanta Hawks are not a top-tier NBA team, but the Atlanta Hawks are a playoff NBA team who was playing all of their players last night, who was playing their full healthy roster, trying to win the game. And these players who have not been given opportunity yet under Doc Rivers just shined, just absolutely flourished in an NBA game. Jaden Springer just gave a player who can't even sniff 1 minute of NBA action this season. Just gave you 19 points in an NBA game against a playoff team and had 3 game-winning plays. Other coaches around the landscape of the NBA, they throw 19-year-old kids on the floor to see what happens. They throw 20-year-old kids on the floor in the middle of the second quarter, in the middle of whatever, to see what happens. Doc Rivers just won't do it. And when he's forced to do it, this is what you get. You have a serious weapon in Jaden Springer, and he needs to be used. He needs to be used. Now, let's look at what Jaden Springer did in this game. And we'll talk about it, okay? Look, he had 3 game-saving plays. The first one in the fourth quarter, it's 115 to 117. The Sixers went up, they went down. They were down by 16 points at one point in the game. They made it. They came all the way back. They had a 7-point lead with a minute and a half left. They kind of blew that. It looked like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We need a bucket. The strategy was clearly to let Jaden Springer go one-on-one with Trae Young. And honestly, there was large parts of this game where Jaden Springer didn't touch the ball for large amounts of minutes. He might have dropped 30 in this game if he was given the keys, especially with Trae Young guarding him one-on-one, because I can score on Trae Young. So with Trae Young on him, 115 to 117, Jaden Springer, 20 years old, in an NBA game against a playoff team, says, I'm tying this game. I got this. And I mean, he's too strong for Trae Young. His shoulders are double the size of Trae Young. And he just moves him out of his way. A couple of times in this game, he really just moved him out of the way. I mean, it's Trae Young. But, just shoulder down, drive, put that left shoulder right in the chest. Moves him. Trae swipes. Probably should have been a foul on top of it. I feel like if this was the other way around, that would have been a foul on Jaden Springer. And gives you a nice little floater over the top of Clint Capella to tie the game. Now, if Paul Reed was in better position here, more around like here in the painted area, maybe Jaden Springer throws a lob, but that's a fantastic finish to tie the game 117 to 117. A couple of plays later, you get a drive by Shake Milton. It is now 119 to 117. We got to tie the game again. There's now 29 seconds left. Shake Milton's going to try to do his thing. Jaden Springer, again, taking advantage of Trae Young being a terrible defensive basketball player. Trae Young's ball watching. Shake misses a layup. Jaden Springer sees Trae ball watching. Look at him. I'm just ball watching, bro. I'm not going to box out. I'm not going to find my man. I'm Trae Young. All I do is shoot threes on the other side and double hit triangle all game long. He takes advantage of that and says, you're not going to box me out? You're not going to box me out? I want to see it again. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He knew right here. He said, please let this ball come off the rim. What other player? You tell me. If this was DeAnthony Melton right here. If this was Shake Milton and Tyrese Maxey had the ball. If this was Tyrese Maxey right here on Trae Young. If this was Tobias Harris, PJ Tucker. I don't know. How many players on the Sixers roster would make this play right here that Jaden Springer made? How many players on this roster crash the offensive glass like this? I've rarely seen this. The past 2 seasons, a player crashed the offensive glass like that. Last one. And I had to go get it on Twitter because it's not like in the box score. Shout out to, that's me that posted it. Shout out to me. It's now 119. We need to force overtime. Trae Young's going to go for a game-winning shot. Jaden Springer, one-on-one defense on Trae Young, who is one of the most difficult players to guard in the entire NBA one-on-one because of his speed, his ball handling ability, and the fact that he can draw fouls. Now you're going to see what Jaden Springer does right here when Trey tries to go past him. Trey blows off the screen. He says, no, I got this. I got a 20-year-old kid on me. I'm winning this game. Springer reaches for a steal right there. Doesn't get it. Hands back. Now right here, he reaches for a steal. He doesn't hit the ball, but he has the defensive instincts to retreat his body right here fast enough to not foul Trey. Trey sees the reach, throws his head back, tries to flop a little bit. Good on Tony Brothers right here to not call this a foul. Because if this is called a foul, the game is over. For Jaden Springer to be able to reach for a steal and retreat quick enough, he has his hand on the ball right there, actually, now that I see it. That would have been a game-winning steal, too. Who knows? Maybe a steal and a transition bucket to win it. But he doesn't get the ball, and he retreats quick enough to not foul. That is incredible defensive instincts. Trey tries to flop. No, sir. Still stays on his hip. Forces him into some kind of weird one-footed fadeaway shot clock violation to send it to overtime. And the Sixers inevitably win in overtime. Incredible game by our young prodigy, Jaden Springer. And I'm just doing the gritty in my mind, thinking about the Sixers next year with all of this young two-way athletic talent and Doc Rivers on vacation somewhere. That's all I got. Thanks for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed day. Peace.